Captain Jake Morrison walked across the bridge of the UES Ranger with his morning coffee in hand. The ship hummed quietly as it moved through space at faster than light speed. They were 3 days into their mission to explore the outer rim systems. When everything changed, the communications console started beeping with an urgent pattern that made Communications Officer Lisa Bennett look up from her station. She had been monitoring the usual background noise of space when something different caught her attention. The signal was weak and broken, but it was definitely not natural. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange on the long-range array," Bennett called out across the bridge. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as she tried to clean up the signal. "It's artificial, sir. Definitely artificial." Morrison set down his coffee and walked over to her station. The bridge crew stopped their morning routines and turned to listen. In 20 years of space exploration, humanity had never encountered another intelligent species. They had found planets with simple life forms, but nothing that could build spaceships or send radio signals. "What kind of signal?" Morrison asked as he leaned over Bennett's shoulder to look at the display. The screen showed wave patterns that pulsed in regular intervals. Whatever was sending this had intelligence behind it. Navigator Danny Cruz pulled up the ship's star charts and began calculating the signal's origin point. "It's coming from the Kepler 442 system, sir. About 12 light years from our current position. That system was marked as empty on all our surveys." Bennett continued working on the signal, running it through the ship's computer systems. "Captain, this is definitely a distress call. The pattern repeats every 47 seconds, and it's broadcasting on multiple frequencies at once. Someone out there needs help." The bridge fell silent as everyone processed what they were hearing. First contact with an alien species was something every human crew had trained for, but no one expected it to happen like this. The protocols were clear, but they had all assumed first contact would be peaceful meetings, not emergency rescues. Lieutenant Amy Foster from the science department ran onto the bridge carrying a tablet computer. Her department had been analyzing the signal for the past 10 minutes, and she looked excited and worried at the same time. "Captain, I've run the mathematical patterns through our computers. The signal shows signs of extreme distress. The repetition rate and frequency spread indicate whoever is sending this has been doing it for weeks." Morrison felt his heart rate increase. Somewhere out there, an alien species was in trouble and asking for help. The decision he made in the next few minutes would change human history forever. He could follow protocol and report back to Earth Command, which would take weeks. Or he could investigate immediately and possibly save lives. "The signal is getting weaker," Bennett reported. "Whatever is sending this is losing power. If we don't respond soon, they might not have enough energy to keep broadcasting." Morrison looked around the bridge at his crew. These were good people who had joined the space service to explore and help others. The Ranger was humanity's newest and most advanced exploration ship, equipped with the best technology Earth could build. If anyone could handle first contact, it was them. "Danny, plot a course for Kepler 442. Maximum warp speed," Morrison ordered. "Lisa, keep monitoring that signal and try to decode any additional information. Amy, I want your team to analyze everything we know about that system." Cruz's fingers flew over his controls as he input the new destination. "Course laid in, Captain. At maximum warp, we'll reach the system in 14 hours. Amy, get me everything we have on Kepler 442. Climate, planets, anything that might tell us what we're flying into," Morrison said as he walked back to his command chair. Bennett looked up from her station with new information. "Captain, I'm detecting multiple signal sources now. This isn't just one ship in distress. There are dozens of different transmission patterns all coming from the same general area." Morrison felt a chill run down his spine. Multiple ships meant this wasn't just a simple rescue mission. Whatever had happened in that system had affected many vessels at once. It could be a battle, a natural disaster, or something worse. "Get me Admiral Parker at Earth Command," Morrison ordered. "Priority 1 transmission." As the crew prepared for whatever they might find, Morrison stared out at the stars rushing past the view screen. In a few hours, humanity would make contact with other intelligent life for the first time. The signal was weak and getting weaker, which meant people were dying while he made his decision. The Ranger jumped to warp speed and headed into the unknown, carrying humanity's first hopes of making friends among the stars. The Ranger dropped out of warp speed at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, and what the crew saw made them forget how to breathe. Floating in the darkness of space were hundreds of ships unlike anything humans had ever imagined. The vessels were enormous, twisted into shapes that seemed impossible, and many of them were clearly damaged. Science Officer Kevin Walsh stared at his sensor readings and shook his head in disbelief. "Captain, I'm counting over 300. Vessels of various sizes? Some of these ships are 10 times larger than our biggest carriers back home. They're all running on emergency power and many show signs of severe battle damage." Morrison stood on the bridge looking at the main screen, where the alien fleet spread out before them like a graveyard in space. The ships were beautiful in their own strange way, with curves and angles that human engineers had never thought to try. But they were also clearly dying, their lights flickering weakly against the starfield. "Life signs?" Morrison asked, though he was afraid to hear the answer. Walsh worked his controls frantically, trying to adapt human sensors to detect alien life forms. "It's hard to tell, sir. I'm reading energy signatures that could be life support systems, but they're failing on many of the ships. Whatever happened here, it happened recently." Communications Officer Bennett suddenly straightened at her station. "Captain, I'm receiving a direct transmission. It's coming from the largest ship in the center of the fleet. The computer is trying to translate it now." The bridge speakers crackled to life with a voice that sounded tired and desperate. The Universal translator struggled with the alien language, producing words that came out slowly and with obvious gaps. "Unknown vessel, this is Fleet Commander Zarathik of the Galactic Defense Coalition. We are in desperate need of assistance. Our ships are failing and thousands of lives hang in the balance." Morrison felt his mouth go dry. The voice belonged to someone who had been fighting a losing battle for weeks. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth Vessel Ranger. We received your distress signal and came to help. What is your situation?" There was a long pause before Zarathik responded. "Earth Vessel, we are not familiar with your species. How far have you traveled to reach us?" "About 12 light years," Morrison replied. "We picked up your distress call and came as fast as we could." Another pause, longer this time. "You came 12 light years to help strangers? This is most unusual. We have been broadcasting for 23 of your days with no response from any known species." Navigator crews had been scanning the system and now looked up with shocking news. "Captain, these ships didn't originate from this system. Based on their engine signatures, they came from at least 6 different star systems. This was some kind of gathering point." The alien commander's voice came through the speakers again, this time with more strength. "Captain Morrison, we are the remnants of the Galactic Defense Coalition. 12 different species united to fight an enemy that threatened all life in this galaxy. We came here to destroy the primary hub of an artificial intelligence called the Devourers." Morrison exchanged glances with his crew. "An artificial intelligence that threatened all life sounded like something from a nightmare. Did you succeed?" "Yes, but at terrible cost. The battle lasted 6 days and we lost over half our fleet. The survivors are stranded here with failing life support systems, no fuel for long-range travel, and thousands of wounded from species you have never encountered." Science Officer Walsh had been analyzing the alien ships and now had disturbing news. "Captain, based on the power readings, the first ships will lose life support in approximately 8 days. After that, the failures will cascade through the fleet." Morrison realized the full scope of what they were facing. This wasn't just a rescue mission for one ship or even one species. Hundreds of vessels carrying thousands of beings from 12 different species were dying in space, and somehow humanity had become their only hope. "Commander Zarathik, we want to help, but we're just one ship. We need to contact our government and organize a proper rescue mission." "Captain Morrison, we do not have time for your political processes. Every day we delay, more of our people die. We have medical facilities that can treat some species but not others. We have food synthesizers that work for some but poison others. We are 12 different forms of life trying to survive in ships that were never meant to carry refugees. The weight of responsibility settled on Morrison's shoulders. These beings had sacrificed everything to save the galaxy from a terrible enemy, and now they were asking humanity for help. The decision he made in the next few minutes would determine whether thousands lived or died. Commander, we'll do everything we can. I'm sending our medical and engineering teams to assess your needs. Meanwhile, I'll contact Earth Command and request immediate assistance. Thank you, Captain Morrison. Your species may be unknown to us, but your compassion gives us hope. Captain Morrison stood in his ready room staring at the communication screen as Admiral Richard Hayes listened to his report from Earth Command. The Admiral's face showed the strain of making a decision that would affect all of humanity's future. Relationships with alien species. Jake, you're telling me we have hundreds of alien ships with thousands of dying beings and they're asking us for help? Hayes said slowly. Do you understand what you're asking me to authorize? Morrison nodded. Grimly. Sir, I've seen the sensor readings. These ships will start losing life support in less than 8 days. If we don't act now, we'll be watching the largest loss of life in galactic history. Hayes was quiet for a long moment before speaking. Captain, I'm giving you full authority to coordinate rescue operations. Every available vessel in the fleet is being redirected to your position. We're also mobilizing civilian ships, cargo haulers, and even prototype vessels still in testing. Within 6 hours of Hayes' authorization, the response was unlike anything humanity had ever organized. The merchant marine fleet diverted every ship within 50 light years to the Kepler 442 system. Civilian transport companies volunteered their vessels without being asked. Even private yacht owners were requesting permission to join the rescue. EFFO or to Dr. Helen Carter, Earth's leading expert on alien biology, worked around the clock with her team to understand the biological needs of 12 different species. Some of the coalition beings breathed methane instead of oxygen. Others required specific gravity conditions to survive. One species could only live in temperatures that would freeze human blood. We're essentially trying to create 12 different types of life support systems using human technology, Carter explained to Morrison during their daily briefing. The good news is that the coalition medical officers are sharing their knowledge freely. They're more concerned with saving lives than protecting secrets. Engineer Pete Williams led the massive effort to retrofit human ships for alien passengers. Every available engineer in the fleet was working to modify cargo holds into living spaces, convert food synthesizers for alien dietary needs, and install environmental controls that could support beings who had evolved on completely different worlds. Captain, we're basically rebuilding our ships from the inside out, Williams reported. But the coalition engineers are helping us understand their technology. They're sharing technical specifications that would normally take us decades to develop. The first major breakthrough came when Dr. Carter successfully modified human medical equipment to treat coalition species. The alien medical officers had provided detailed biological information about their different species, allowing human doctors to adapt their techniques. Captain Susan Torres arrived with the UES Mercy, humanity's largest hospital ship, along with a full medical team. Dr. Frank Rodriguez, the ship's chief physician, began treating alien wounded using equipment that had been hastily reprogrammed for non-human biology. It's like performing surgery on 12 different types of animals using tools designed for humans, Rodriguez explained. But these coalition doctors are brilliant. They're teaching us medical techniques that we never imagined possible. The rescue operation grew larger every day as more human ships arrived. Supply vessels brought food synthesizers that had been reprogrammed to create nutrition suitable for alien digestive systems. Transport ships were modified to carry refugees who had never seen a human but now depended on them for survival. Morrison watched from the Ranger's bridge as human crews worked alongside alien beings to save lives. Language barriers meant nothing. When someone was dying, human engineers worked with coalition technicians using hand signals and shared technical drawings. Medical teams from both species collaborated to treat wounded beings, whose biology was completely foreign to human doctors. The most remarkable thing was how quickly the different species began to trust each other. Coalition beings who had never heard of humans were allowing human doctors to operate on them. Human crew members were sharing their food rations with alien refugees even when they didn't know if the food was safe for them to eat. Admiral Hayes contacted Morrison with updates from Earth. Jake, the response from our people has been overwhelming. We're receiving volunteer applications from every profession. Doctors, engineers, teachers, even artists want to help. The entire planet is mobilizing for this rescue. Morrison felt proud of his species in a way he had never experienced before. Humanity had been given its first test on the galactic stage, and they were proving themselves worthy of joining the larger community of intelligent life. Commander Zarathik, this is Captain Morrison, he said into his communicator. The first wave of our rescue fleet will arrive in 36 hours. We're bringing hospital ships, transport vessels, and supply ships loaded with everything we think you'll need. The alien commander's voice carried emotion that translated clearly across species barriers. Captain Morrison, in 3,000 years of galactic history, we have never witnessed such a response. Your species is traveling across the void to save strangers without asking for payment or territory in return. This is beyond our understanding of how civilized species behave. Morrison smiled as he watched another human transport ship drop out of warp speed and join the growing rescue. Fleet, Commander, this is just who we are. Lieutenant Commander Steve Johnson stood in the command center of the rescue operation, surrounded by holographic displays showing the positions of over 200 human vessels and 300 coalition ships. The massive rescue effort had been running for 5 days, and every hour brought new challenges that seemed impossible to solve. The coalition ships were scattered across the entire Kepler 442 system, with many too damaged to move under their own power. Human vessels designed to carry crews of hundreds were being asked to accommodate thousands of alien refugees with completely different biological needs. Johnson had been working 8-hour shifts, managing resources and coordinating evacuations while trying to ensure that no one was left behind. Commander, we have a problem with the Zephyr-class transport ships, reported Communications Officer Lisa Bennett. They're reporting that the atmospheric processors can't handle the methane-breathing Kithara refugees and the oxygen-breathing Terran survivors at the same time. Johnson rubbed his tired eyes and studied the display. The Kithara needed an atmosphere. That would kill humans instantly, while the Terran species required oxygen levels that would suffocate the Kithara. Split the transport loads. Send the Kithara to the cargo ships that have been converted for methane atmospheres. The Terran refugees can go to the passenger ships. The first major crisis came when the coalition heavy cruiser Eternal Dawn suffered a catastrophic system failure. The ship carried over 3,000 refugees from 5 different species, and its life support systems were failing rapidly. Chief Engineer Carol Davis led a desperate repair mission, taking a team of human engineers and coalition technicians to the dying ship. We're basically performing surgery on a patient while they're having a heart attack, Davis reported to Captain Morrison over the communication system. But these coalition engineers are incredible. They're adapting to our technology faster than we expected and showing us tricks with their systems that we never would have figured out. Davis and her team worked for 14 straight hours using human components to repair alien systems that operated on completely different principles. They jury-rigged human power conduits to alien distribution networks and modified human atmospheric processors to work with coalition life support systems. Meanwhile, Dr. Helen Carter made a breakthrough that would save thousands of lives. Working with coalition medical officers, she discovered that human medical nanobots could be reprogrammed to treat most coalition species. The technology was crude compared to coalition medicine, but it worked when their advanced systems had been destroyed in battle. The nanobots are like universal translators for medicine, Carter explained to the medical teams. They can adapt to different biological systems and provide basic healing functions. It's not perfect, but it's keeping people alive until we can get them to proper medical facilities. The rescue operation faced its biggest test when a group of coalition ships reported that they were being pursued by Devourer scout units. The artificial intelligence that had been defeated was apparently not completely destroyed, and its remaining forces were hunting down the survivors. Captain Morrison made a decision that surprised everyone. Instead of fleeing with the rescued refugees, he ordered the human fleet to form a defensive line around the remaining coalition ships. The Ranger and 50 other human vessels prepared to fight an enemy they had never encountered to protect aliens they had just met. "Captain, our weapons are designed for human conflicts," warned Weapons Officer Danny Cruz. "We don't know if they'll be effective against Devourer technology." Morrison stood on the bridge watching the approaching enemy ships on the main screen. "Danny, we didn't come this far to abandon these people now. All ships, prepare for battle." The battle was brief but intense. Human weapons, while less advanced than coalition technology, proved effective against the Devourer scouts. The artificial intelligence had been designed to fight coalition ships with their energy-based weapons, but human kinetic weapons and nuclear missiles caught the enemy by surprise. The victory gave the rescue operation the time it needed to complete the most difficult evacuations. Human crews worked alongside coalition beings to transfer the last refugees from the most damaged ships. Language barriers meant nothing when people were working together to save lives. The most remarkable aspect of the rescue was how human families opened their homes to alien refugees. Captain Morrison watched as crew members gave up their quarters, their food rations, and even their personal possessions to help beings they couldn't even communicate with properly. "Commander Johnson, we're receiving reports from all transport ships," Bennett announced. "The last of the coalition survivors have been evacuated. All ships are secure and ready for the journey to human space." Johnson looked at the display showing the massive convoy of human and coalition ships preparing to leave the system. In 6 days, humanity had accomplished something that the galaxy had thought impossible. They had saved an entire fleet of alien refugees and asked for nothing in return. "Set course for Earth," Johnson ordered. "Time to go home." The massive convoy of human and coalition ships traveled through space toward Earth, carrying the largest collection of alien refugees in galactic history. As they journeyed through the void, news of the rescue operation spread across the galaxy like wildfire, reaching species that had never heard of humans before. Fleet Commander Zarathik stood in the observation deck of the UES Mercy, watching the stars alongside Captain Morrison. The alien commander had been sharing stories of galactic history with the human captain, and what she revealed changed everything Morrison thought he knew about civilized space. "Captain Morrison, you must understand what your species has accomplished," Zarathik said through the universal translator. "When our fleet sent out distress signals, we broadcast to every known species in the galaxy. We sent emergency beacons to over 200 different civilizations, explaining our situation and asking for help." Morrison felt a chill run down his spine. "How many responded?" "None," Zarathik replied simply. "Not one species offered assistance. They were afraid that helping us would bring the Devourers to their worlds. They chose to protect their own interests rather than risk helping strangers." The revelation hit Morrison like a physical blow. Humanity had assumed that compassion and mutual aid were universal values, but they were learning that they might be unique in the galaxy. While other species had ignored the Coalition's pleas for help, humans had traveled across the void to save people they had never met. Dr. Helen Carter joined them on the observation deck, carrying reports from the medical teams. "Captain, I've been working with Coalition doctors from 12 different species, and they all tell me the same thing. In 3,000 years of galactic history, no species has ever mounted a rescue operation like this." The scope of what humanity had done became clearer as more Coalition officers shared their experiences. The Kithara military commander explained that his species had received the distress signals, but decided the risk was too great. The Terran diplomatic corps had debated sending aid for weeks before concluding it was not in their strategic interests. Your species responded within hours, the Cathara commander told Morrison. You asked for no payment, no territory, no technology in return. You simply came to help because we needed help. This is unknown in galactic politics. As the convoy continued toward Earth, the communication arrays buzzed with messages from across the galaxy. Species that had initially dismissed humanity as primitive newcomers now watched in amazement as the rescue operation unfolded. The galactic news networks were broadcasting continuous coverage of the human fleet and its alien passengers. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez had been assigned as Earth's first official representative to the Galactic Coalition, and she found herself fielding requests from dozens of species wanting to establish diplomatic relations. The galaxy had taken notice of humanity not for their weapons or technology, but for their willingness to risk everything to help strangers. Captain, I'm receiving communication requests from species I've never heard of, Rodriguez reported to Morrison. The Altarian Empire wants to establish trade relations. The Vegan Confederacy is offering to share their agricultural technology. Even the notoriously isolationist Centaur Republic is requesting a cultural exchange program. Dr. Carter's medical innovations had become a sensation among coalition scientists. Her technique of reprogramming human nanobots to treat different species was being studied by medical researchers across the galaxy. The simple but effective approach had saved thousands of lives when more advanced coalition medicine had failed. Engineer Pete Williams found himself in constant communication with coalition technical teams who were amazed by humanity's ability to rapidly adapt their technology. The retrofit designs he had created to accommodate alien refugees were being studied and improved by engineers from 12 different species. These humans think differently than we do, explained Chief Engineer Veltar of the Coalition fleet. They see a problem and immediately begin adapting their tools to solve it. Most species would have declared the rescue impossible due to technical limitations. The most remarkable aspect of the rescue operation was how it had brought together species that had been enemies for generations. The Cathara and Terran species had been at war for 50 years, but human medical teams were treating wounded from both sides without distinction. The example of human compassion had inspired coalition species to work together in ways they never had before. Fleet Commander Zarathik spent hours each day in communication with Coalition High Command, explaining how the rescue had been possible. The political implications were staggering as species across the galaxy realized that humanity represented something new in galactic civilization. Captain Morrison, your species has accomplished more than saving our fleet, Zarathik explained during one of their evening conversations. You have shown the galaxy that there is a different way to interact with other civilizations. For 3,000 years, galactic politics has been based on fear, competition, and self-interest. You have proven that cooperation and compassion can be more powerful than any weapon. The journey to Earth continued, but already the galaxy was changing. The rescue operation had become a symbol of what was possible when species worked together instead of against each other. Humanity had not just saved a stranded fleet, they had given the galaxy hope for a better future. 3 months after the rescue operation began, the last coalition ship was safely evacuated, and the massive alien fleet that had once seemed doomed was now scattered across human space. The survivors were recovering in facilities that had been hastily constructed on dozens of human worlds, their crews healing from wounds both physical and emotional. Captain Morrison stood in the assembly hall of the newly constructed Galactic Council building on Earth, preparing to address representatives from over 50 different species. The building had been completed in record time, with human engineers working alongside coalition architects to create a structure that could accommodate the various environmental needs of different alien species. The political implications of the rescue were staggering. The Galactic Coalition, grateful beyond measure for humanity's intervention, had offered Earth full membership with unprecedented privileges. Technology exchanges were happening daily, with coalition species sharing advances in energy generation, faster-than-light travel, and medical science that would have taken humanity centuries to develop on their own. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez had been working around the clock to establish diplomatic relations with species that had never heard of humans just months earlier. The rescue operation had made humanity famous across the galaxy, but it was the manner of their actions that impressed alien civilizations the most. Captain Morrison, when your species first contacted us, we assumed you were like every other civilization we had encountered, Fleet Commander Zarathik explained as they prepared for the assembly. We expected you to demand payment for your help, to claim territory in exchange for your services, or to ask for our most advanced technology as compensation. Morrison smiled as he adjusted his formal uniform. Commander, we didn't save your fleet because we expected rewards. We saved you because it was the right thing to do. That's who we are as a species. The assembly hall filled with representatives from species across the galaxy, many of whom had traveled vast distances to witness humanity's formal induction into galactic civilization. The ceremony was being broadcast to billions of beings on thousands of worlds, marking the moment when Earth officially joined the community of intelligent life. Dr. Helen Carter sat in the human delegation, surrounded by coalition medical officers who had become her close friends and colleagues. Her medical innovations were now being used in hospitals across the galaxy, saving lives on worlds she had never visited. The simple technique of reprogramming human nanobots had revolutionized emergency medicine for multiple species. Engineer Pete Williams found himself consulting with coalition technical teams on a daily basis. The retrofit designs he had created during the rescue operation were being implemented across the coalition fleet, improving their efficiency and safety. His approach to rapid adaptation had become a standard technique taught in engineering schools. Throughout galactic space. Merle Hayes, now serving as humanity's first galactic defense coordinator, oversaw the integration of human forces into the coalition fleet. The same ships that had carried out the rescue operation now served as protectors of galactic peace, their crews working alongside alien officers to maintain stability across the galaxy. The most significant change was in how the galaxy viewed cooperation and mutual aid. The Coalition Assembly had established the Human Doctrine, a set of principles based on humanity's actions during the rescue operation. It emphasized cooperation over competition, aid over exploitation, and the fundamental belief that all sentient life had value regardless of species or origin. The Human Doctrine represents a new way of thinking about galactic civilization, explained Coalition President Thexan during the ceremony. For 3,000 years, we have operated under the assumption that species must compete for resources and territory. Humanity has shown us that cooperation and compassion can achieve more than any military force. The ceremony concluded with Morrison addressing the assembled representatives. We didn't come to the galaxy seeking power or territory. We came because we heard people in distress and we wanted to help. That's the foundation of human civilization, and we hope it can become the foundation of galactic civilization as well. The response from the assembled species was overwhelming. One by one, representatives from dozens of civilizations stood to pledge their support for the Human Doctrine. Former enemies agreed to work together, inspired by the human example of putting compassion above self-interest. Years later, when historians studied the events that changed galactic civilization, they would focus not on the technology or logistics of the rescue operation, but on the simple human decision to help strangers in need. The rescue had not just saved a stranded fleet, it had shown the galaxy what it truly meant to be civilized. The stars themselves seemed brighter now, illuminated not by the light of distant suns, but by the hope that somewhere in the vast darkness, there were beings who would cross the void itself to help those in need. Humanity had found its place among the stars not as conquerors or traitors, but as the species that reminded the galaxy of its capacity for compassion. The rescue operation had ended, but its legacy would continue forever, inspiring future generations to choose cooperation over conflict and compassion over indifference in the endless journey among the stars.